touch and stay connected with this village. Special congratulations to the parents of the 2017 graduating class. This is an especially rewarding moment for you, so congratulations. This is an important moment in your life. It makes me reflect on the day that I graduated. Let me share a little bit about that day with you. I remember the look of pride on my parents' faces and how they reminisced about the time that they held me as a baby and the dreams and wishes they had for me. I remember giving them my thanks for all that they did and for all the sacrifices that they made to ensure that I had a good education. Afterwards, I remember in reflection and started thinking, wow, that conversation was sort of unusual. I felt that they recognized that I was growing up. Like this graduating class, I entered St. Saviour's a little girl and graduated a young woman. So with the passage of time, I learned to appreciate a few things. I would not be the person that I am today without the love and guidance of my parents and the lessons learned here at this girls' leadership school. For example, there was Sister Miriam Patrick, who had the greatest sayings. She used to say, "Missy, F, 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 feet flat on floor." That came in handy when I did television interviews and there was no desk between me, my legs, and the camera. Zip your lip to save the ship. Loose lips sink ships. Well, as you know, I am an attorney, and that comes in handy as I need to keep my clients' deepest confidences. St. Saviour is one of the leading ranked high schools in this country, thanks to its faculty and graduates. It is an impressive school with a rich history. Through the years, this school, founded by the aegis of the School of Sisters of Notre Dame, assured academic excellence by graduating young women who receive scholarships and who have attended Ivy League schools and other prestigious colleges and universities. This high school has graduated doctors, lawyers, engineers, professors, writers, innovators, athletes, and more. So when you enter the halls of St. Saviour High School, you feel that warm pride and sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense that you have stood on sacred grounds because of its history and because of all the young women and the women who have graduated this law school, this high school, and their accomplishments. As you heard, I am an attorney. In 1992, I started the first Hispanic women-owned law firm in New York, Pacheco Lugo, at One World Trade Center. The dream of becoming a lawyer started here at St. Saviour and continued through my college years. Back then, while in college and studying with my friend Lugo for exams at my parents' kitchen table, I began drawing a sketch as to what I thought my office of law would be. When I finished the drawing, I showed it to my friend Lugo, and she said, "Are you crazy? You better study, if not, you're not going to graduate." And I said, "Just a moment, this is where our law officers will be." In response, she said to me, "How do you expect these two gals from Brooklyn to ever have offices like that? We are not rich, you know." So I want you to take a trip with me for a moment and use your imagination. I want you to see what I drew. I drew a building with an atrium at its entrance, a horseshoe driveway with our names etched on the wall, and a building that had a heliport so that helicopters could land. So after graduating law school at St. John's Law School with law review distinction, I went on to a 150-year-old law firm. My friend Lugo graduated Albany Law School and went to work at the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. We were both the first Hispanic women to be hired as attorneys at those offices. A few years later, and a good amount of experience, I told Lugo it was time for us to start our law practice. She said, "You know, we're making money. You think so?" I said, "Yes, it is time." So when we finally opened our offices 25 years ago at One World Trade Center, we were told that we were the first Hispanic-owned law firm in New York. So I want you to again imagine that building, that sketch that I drew. At One World Trade Center, there is an atrium. It had a horseshoe entrance. Our names were etched on the wall. And at One World Trade Center, it had a heliport. So our dreams came true. So my message to you is whatever your path, dream big. That I call the power within. We attribute our success and confidence to going to all-girl high schools where leaders are bred. At St. Saviour, our student government and class discussions are led by girls. And team building is about girls and women working together, fully collaborating. We also attribute our successes to our faith in God, which makes our foundation and floor rock solid. There is no abyss. So, no matter how rickety my knees may get in any situation, I know how far they will fall. These combinations keep us true to ourselves, steadfast to our teachings, never forgetting who we are or from where we came from. Again, I ask you to join me again to use your imagination. I want you to travel in time with me to 1917, the year St. Saviour first opened its doors. I want you to make believe that the pew that you're sitting in is a time capsule or a time machine. Let's envision the women at that time, sporting long, hemline, loose-fitting dresses. It was the year where women showed ankles at best, and a time when women's rights were significantly less than men. We need to understand the complexity of that time because it helps us understand these current times. It was a time where gender inequality was the norm. However, in 1917, when St. Saviour High School opened its doors, advocacy for women equality was the focal point of this school, and it was also at its height in the nation. In 1917, there was the women's suffrage, a movement in New York that began in 1848, when women fought for the right of women to guess. They were fighting for education and opportunities in employment and a right to vote. That is what women were fighting for under the suffrage movement. Women would protest outside of the White House. The United States Navy received its first female petty officer. The first woman member of the United States House of Representatives began her term. When it was unheard of for women to be protesting and marching and being arrested and being confined in prison, those are the things that were happening at that time. You had a woman who was incarcerated for 7 months for just protesting in front of the White House. You had 20,000 women marching in a suffrage parade in New York. You had 41 suffragists that were arrested for just standing in front of the White House. Those were those times. Now, can you just imagine the complexity of the environment surrounding the first class of Saviorites? It was tumultuous time for women and the exercise of their rights. In addition, there were other things going on. World War I, that was the time that we entered World War I, and it was the enactment of the Jones Act as well. Now, in 1920, when the first class of Saviorites were juniors, the 19th Amendment of the Constitution was finally ratified, enfranchising all women and declaring for the first time that they, like men, deserve all the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. That is the vote. That is when women were given the right to vote. So I encourage you to read about the women's suffrage movement. This history coincides with the history of leadership and the current events of today. Like suffragettes, 20,000 women marched in 1917. 100 years later, a million-woman march took place in 2017 in support of women's rights. What a parallel. Now you ask, what challenges do 2017 young women face, old and young? The issue of equality. Does that sound familiar? Despite the progress women made since St. Saviour opened its doors 100 years ago, the number of women in leadership positions in Fortune 500 companies is abysmal. Only 4.8% of chief executive officer positions in Fortune 500 companies are held by women. Of the Fortune 1000 companies, only 19% of the board of directors seats are held by women. To put this in perspective, by the time you are college juniors, only 20% of women will be represented on the board of directors. This is despite the fact that women make up half the population and influence 80% of the purchasing decisions. Women in the legal profession are confronted with inequities as well. According to the National Association of Law Placement, only 18% of law firm equity partners are women, and only 5.8% are racial ethnic minorities. Even though women make up 47% of law school graduating classes and attorneys at law firms, they are underrepresented at the decision-making levels. The most daunting challenges are faced by minority women. They comprise only 2% of equity partners. It gets worse. Even when women make partner, they earn approximately 22% less than their male counterparts. Wage disparity is not limited just to the legal workforce. It cuts across all professions. Now, the Saviorite. However, to a Saviorite, these numbers are not a roadblock. You will carve a seat at the table. That is what we were taught. When I graduated law school, there were bigger challenges. It was because of the strong educational foundation I received here and through the years that made me take on those challenges with success. If I could do it, you could do it. It is as simple as that. I am an alum of St. Saviour's, and so are you. We have a strong educational background being graduates of St. Saviour's. So why do we need to know about these issues today? You are entering a new phase in your educational life, college. You will need to graduate college to secure a good job or continue to graduate school. 4 years goes quickly. During that time, your minds will be challenged. You will need to keep the panda spirit to challenge what is wrong. The teamwork and team building you learned here will prove to be invaluable. It is that ability to work with others that will help you fight to stop the avalanche of inequities which plague women for centuries. Intellectual, respectful pushback to those who fear sharing power will weaken them. And with that style, they will not see you coming, and that will disarm them. Instead, team building will show you that in unity there is strength. Teamwork is a measure that will put you on top, and a leader that will help douse the fire that attempts to scorch injustice. In the face of any challenge, you have choices. As a Saviour High, the moment that you arrive, you were challenged to reach your full potential. This is what you have learned, and this is what you will deliver. As a Saviour High, you were taught to search for the truth and thwart injustice. Remember, you are defenders of fair play. That is our mantra. There are going to be hard days when you will be challenged into your inner core, and those days will define you. Those days are the days that you should reach deep inside into all that you have learned and remain steadfast to your history. You will spend a lifetime learning and hearing different points of view. The true challenge is to listen, speak when appropriate, be thoughtful, and that will take you a long way. In other words, be respectful to your adversary, who is your opponent. Do not treat others like enemies just because they have a different point of view. Viewpoints or diversity of minds is what makes a diverse and interesting, developed, free world. Whatever life takes you, I bet that the St. Saviour teaching will serve as your yardstick, and lessons that your parents have taught you will be your safety net. So, I'm going to share a few adagios with you that I live with. While most are dreaming of success, winners wake up and work hard to achieve it. If you feel like giving up, look how far you've reached already. Believe in yourself and respect yourself at all odds, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Fear is nothing more than an obstacle that stands in the way of progress. Live your calling. Ask, what on earth am I here to do? Leadership is a lot about listening to yourself. Be brave with your decision, even if it's against the grain. To my 100-year-old alma mater, happy birthday. To the St. Saviour graduating class of 2017, congratulations, and thank you for securing our future. Having met you, I know that the future of our society is in good hands. Now, graduates, I'm going to ask you to stand and turn around and face your family. I want you to thank them with a big round of applause. All right. Now, I want you to remember one last thing. Life is short, so live it well. Hold fast to your dreams, for if dreams die, they are like a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Thank you, and go Panda!